If you've ever watched Rugby Sevens, I mean, you know it's just relentless, isn't it?
Yeah.
Explosive, fast-paced.
Absolutely brutal. A real test of endurance.
Yeah, players sprint, they tackle, constant direction changes, and then they have to do it all over again, sometimes, 6 times in a weekend?
Multiple matches. It's incredibly demanding.
But what if the way we generally think about preparing for this unique sport, what if it's missing some, crucial details? How do coaches really optimize performance when the game shifts so dramatically between attack, defense, and those really long, grinding periods where the ball just stays in play?
That's the core question, really.
So today, we're going to try and cut through some of that noise. We want to understand the precise physical and technical demands on professional female Rugby Sevens players. And we're drawing insights directly from some pretty cutting-edge research.
Yeah, this is a great one.
We're diving into a study titled Comparison of Ball and Play Running Demands Across Game Phases and the Relationship Between Physical and Technical Variables, an analysis of the 2024 Female Super Sevens tournament. Quite a mouthful.
It is, but it tells you exactly what they looked at. And this isn't just, some random article. It's peer-reviewed research published in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. It's actually from 2025, volume 24, pages 713 to 720.
Okay, so recent stuff.
Very recent. And the authors are Filipe Oliveira Bicudo, Lucas Savassi Figueiredo, Amanda Franco de Silva, Hugo Sarmento, Jocelyn Solomons, Filipe Manuel Clemente, and Henrique de Oliveira Castro. An international team.
Wow.
And the fact that it's peer-reviewed, that it's gone through that rigorous scientific evaluation, well, that means these findings give us a really solid base for understanding elite performance. It's not just guesswork.
Right. It adds that layer of confidence.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We're breaking down how these demands physical and technical change across different game phases. Attack, defense.
And those transitions, yeah.
And also how a player's physical effort relates to their technical actions, especially during those varying ball-in-play durations. It's not about general fitness, is it? It's about getting really specific.
Hyper-specific, data-driven preparation. That's the goal.
Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. Rugby Sevens.
Yeah.
7 players, 7-minute halves, multiple matches a weekend. It's this constant cycle of high-intensity bursts, collisions, sprints.
Interspersed with lower intensity periods, but not much rest.
Exactly. And it's because of those unique, almost extreme demands that understanding the details, the nuances of player performance becomes so critical.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is that success in sevens isn't just about being strong or fast in isolation. It's directly linked to the ability to repeat those high-intensity efforts again and again.
Match after match.
Game after game, across a whole tournament. We already know from previous research that fatigue is a huge factor. Studies have shown players cover less distance, they sprint less in the later stages of matches, or later in a tournament.
Right. Performance drops off.
Which leads to that key question. If fatigue messes things up so much, how do we accurately measure these constantly changing demands to, well, optimize training and keep players performing at their absolute peak?
That's a really crucial point, because those traditional methods, just looking at whole game averages, they can kind of hide the truth, can't they?
They absolutely can. You average everything out and you completely miss the most intense, often game-deciding moments.
Yeah, it's like describing a roller coaster just by its average speed. You miss all the exciting bits.
Precisely. And that's where this study, and others like it, push for a more, let's say, sophisticated approach, the ball and play method, or BIP.
BIP.
Pollard and colleagues described this back in 2018. It's a more precise tool because it only looks at the segments of play when the ball is actually live. It cuts out all the dead time scrums, lineouts, waiting for conversions.
Ah, okay, so you're isolating the actual action, focusing just on the dynamic moments.
Exactly. You get a much clearer picture of the intensity during actual play.
But does focusing just on BIP risk, maybe, missing the overall load, like the fatigue that builds up even during those stops?
That's a fair question. But the BIP method isn't really meant to replace everything else. It complements other metrics. Its real strength is sensitivity. It's just much better at picking up those critical variations in external load, pinpointing the peak demands coaches really need to train for.
So it highlights the extremes better.
Exactly. And importantly, they subdivide these BIP segments into attack, defense, and transition phases. This lets coaches develop super accurate, scenario-specific training, because that's how they train anyway, right? Attack drills, defense drills.
Right. They train in phases, so the data should reflect that.
Precisely. It allows for truly targeted preparation based on what actually happens in those specific situations.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this study then. Who are they actually looking at?
Right, so the participants were 18 professional female rugby sevens athletes, and they were all from one team, a high-performing Brazilian team.
Not just any team, though.
No, they were the national champions in the 2024 Super Sevens Championship. So we're talking elite athletes performing at the top level. This makes the research really relevant to real-world high-performance settings.
Okay, elite athletes, real competition. How did they track them? What was the methodology?
It was pretty comprehensive. They collected data over 18 matches across 4 different tournaments between October and December 2024.
Wow, that's a lot of data points.
A good amount. And they used a dual approach. For the physical side, the external load, they used 10 Hertz GPS units, specifically catapult player tech devices.
The ones clipped into the back of the jersey.
Yep, standard kit in pro sports now. These track things like distance covered per minute, sprint distance per minute, that's meters covered above 18 kilometer.
Okay, so actual sprinting speed.
Right. Also, the number of sprints per minute, accelerations per minute, speeding up quickly, over 3 meters per second squared, and decelerations per minute, basically slamming on the brakes.
So you get a really detailed picture of their movement intensity and type.
A very detailed picture. But as you said, rugby isn't just running around.
No, it's hugely technical. Passes, tackles, rucks.
Absolutely. So to capture that, they used post-match video analysis, meticulously going through the footage, recording, quantifying all those technical actions. Passes, offloads, rups, line breaks, tackles, even things like jackals.
Where they try and steal the ball right after attack.
Exactly. So combining the GPS and the video analysis gives this really holistic view of performance.
And they use proper stats to make sure the patterns were real.
Oh, yeah. Rigorous statistical analysis, Friedman tests, Spearman correlations, the works, to find significant differences between phases and, crucially, the relationships between the physical effort and the technical actions, making sure it wasn't just random chance.
Okay, solid methodology. So the big question, what did all this data actually show? What happens physically when a team is attacking versus defending?
Well, the data showed some really clear, significant differences. During the attack, the players had significantly greater sprint output.
More sprinting when attacking. Makes sense.
Yep. Both higher sprint distance per minute and a greater number of sprints per minute compared to when they were defending. You can picture it, right? Attackers need to maintain shape, hit gaps, support the ball carrier, lots of explosive forward movement.
Right, trying to break the line, get ahead of the ball.
Yeah.
So what about defense then? Is it just less sprinting, or is there a different kind of physical demand?
It's a different kind. Conversely, the defensive phase showed a significantly higher number of decelerations per minute.
Ah, okay. More stopping and starting.
Exactly. Defenders are constantly closing down space, reacting, changing direction quickly to track attackers, setting themselves for tackles. All that involves hitting the brakes hard quite frequently.
So reacting to the play rather than initiating it with sprints.
Largely, yes. Interestingly, though, total distance covered per minute and the number of accelerations per minute, those didn't show significant differences between attack and defense.
Huh. So the overall distance and speeding up is similar? But how they move intensely, sprints versus decelerations, changes significantly.
That's what the data suggests. The type of intense effort shifts.
Okay, attack equals more sprints, defense equals more decelerations. Seems logical. But here's where it gets weird, right? The study found the absolute peak physical demands for everything. Distance, sprints, accelerations, decelerations were actually recorded during defense. How does that work? That seems like a paradox.
It does seem like a paradox, doesn't it? And it's a really critical insight for coaches.
So what's the thinking there?
Well, the thinking is, while attacking might have a higher average sprint intensity, those absolute lung-bursting peak efforts, they probably happen in defense during moments of, extreme desperation.
Like a try-saving tackle.
Exactly. Think about chasing down a breakaway near your own line, or scrambling defense when the line is broken. Players might completely abandon their usual defensive structure and just go all out in a short, incredibly intense burst. High speed, multiple direction changes, a massive deceleration into a tackle.
Right, those oh-no moments where you just react with everything you've got.
Precisely. So, training needs to prepare players not just for the consistent efforts of attack, but also for these maximal, maybe less frequent, but absolutely critical worst case scenario bursts that often happen on defense under huge pressure.
That really changes the game for conditioning, doesn't it? Not just average intensity, but peak intensity preparation, especially for defense. So beyond attack and defense, there's the time factor, how long the ball stays in play. What did the study uncover there? Because that felt counterintuitive, too.
It really did. You'd naturally assume longer the ball's in play, the harder players just keep running, right? More time, more running.
Yeah, sustain the intensity.
But the study found significant negative correlations. Longer ball and play durations, so extended periods of continuous action, were actually associated with a reduction in both sprints per minute and accelerations per minute.
So less sprinting and less sharp acceleration the longer the play goes on.
Seems so. It suggests that the purely physical intensity, at least in terms of those explosive efforts, actually decreases during these longer phases, likely due to, metabolic stress building up. It's just really hard to keep producing those maximum power outputs repeatedly without a break.
The tank starts to empty a bit on the explosive side.
Something like that. Players are still working hard, covering ground, but maybe fewer of those top-end sprints and accelerations.
Okay, so the explosive physical stuff dips. But what about the technical side during these long plays? Are players still making good decisions, executing skills when they're getting physically drained?
And that's the fascinating contrast. While the explosive physical output dipped, the study found significant positive correlations between BIP duration and most technical variables.
So more technical actions.
Yeah. As the BIP duration increased, so did the frequency of things like passes, offloads, ball carries, line breaks, rucks, tackles, jackals, counter rucks, ball recoveries, even tries scored in this team's case.
Wow. So physically, the peak explosiveness might drop off, but technically, they're actually more engaged, doing more things.
That's what this data suggests. It means players need conditioning not just for the initial bursts, but crucially, to sustain technical performance accuracy, decision-making during those prolonged, metabolically taxing phases when they are fatigued. You're tired, you're sprinting less, but you're still expected to make more tackles, execute more passes accurately, hit more rucks effectively.
That's a massive takeaway for training, isn't it? It's not just about surviving physically, it's about maintaining skill under fatigue. It was also interesting that some things didn't correlate with BIP duration, like turnovers or penalties.
Right, things like kick receiving, turnovers conceded or awarded, penalties, tries conceded. They showed no significant link to how long the ball was in play, which kind of hints that those actions might be driven more by tactics, specific team skills, or maybe even refereeing decisions, rather than just the duration of continuous play itself.
Okay, so strategy and skill still play a huge part regardless of play length for certain events.
Exactly. So pulling this all together, the practical implications for coaching are pretty clear.
Yeah, how does a coach actually use this on the field?
Well, first and foremost, it really hammers home the importance of game phase specific conditioning. Training shouldn't be generic. It needs to replicate these specific match scenarios.
Simulate attack, simulate defense, simulate those long BIPs.
Precisely. Expose players to those extended efforts where they have to maintain technical skill even when they're feeling the burn physically. Also, tactically, knowing how your team responds to long BIPs can be valuable. For this team, longer BIPs seem to be a favorable scenario. They won more turnovers, scored more tries.
So a coach might encourage them to keep the ball alive in certain situations.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe opt for quick taps, keep playing through advantages, knowing their team has the capacity to sustain technical output during those periods better than perhaps their opponents. It informs tactical choices.
It's incredibly valuable insight. But, like all good science, there are limitations, right? We need to be aware of the context.
Absolutely, and the researchers are upfront about them. Firstly, it's based on a single team in one specific competition.
So generalizability might be limited?
Exactly. Game demands can definitely vary depending on the level of competition, the quality of the opposition, the tactics teams use. Secondly, they didn't do a position-specific analysis.
Why not? Forwards versus backs must have different demands.
They often do, but the paper notes this team frequently changed formations, making it hard to consistently categorize players by position across all matches. And finally, they mentioned the lack of an intra-operator reliability study for the video analysis part.
meaning checking if different analysts coded the actions the same way.
Exactly. Ideally, you do that to ensure the technical data is as objective and consistent as possible. So these limitations don't invalidate the findings, but they do highlight areas where more research could build an even richer picture across different teams, different levels, maybe incorporating positional analysis where possible.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's try and boil this down. For you, the learner listening, the key takeaways from this deep dive seem to be Rugby Sevens demands are really phase-specific,
Definitely. Attack means more high-intensity sprints covering ground quickly.
while defense means significantly more decelerations, hitting the brakes, changing direction, reacting.
And crucially, remember that paradox. The absolute peak physical demands often occur during defense in those moments of desperation.
And maybe the most surprising bit, those longer stretches of continuous play, the long ball-and-play periods. They demand incredible sustained technical performance, even while the purely explosive physical output like sprinting might actually dip slightly due to fatigue.
That's the complex reality. You need the explosive power, but also the endurance to maintain skills when you're tired. Which leads to perhaps a final thought for you to mull over.
Go on.
How might understanding these detailed phase-specific demands influence how you approach any high-performance environment? Recognizing that peak moments, the most critical efforts, can pop up in surprising contexts, not just during the obvious attacking sprints, but perhaps more often in those crucial, potentially game-saving defensive actions. It really shifts the focus of preparation and strategic thinking, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's about understanding the full spectrum of demands, not just the averages. If you're as fascinated by this as we are and want to get into all the statistical detail, we definitely encourage you to read the full article.
Yeah, it's worth a read.
Again, the title is Comparison of Ball and Play Running Demands Across Game Phases and the Relationship Between Physical and Technical Variables. An analysis of the 2024 Female Super Sevens Tournament, published in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive and want more explorations into the science behind performance, make sure you follow our channel and turn on those notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming up. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.